Just like old times in the ACC, Florida State owns the conference. They win the ACC in 2023. Unblemished, perfect record, 9-0 against conference opponents. Same thing they did in 2014, the last time they won it. Of course, Clemson's owned the conference much of that time in between, but FSU back on top and expected by Vegas and most to get back to the ACC championship game and win it all in the conference. Let's check out here at the Voice of College Football our percentage chances of Florida State doing just that. Let's look at game by game Florida State's best chances of winning these games against the ACC. Toughest game on the schedule based on opponent and location's got to be the trip to South Bend to take on Notre Dame, where we give Florida State a 40% chance of defeating a Notre Dame team that's got a quarterback in Riley Leonard that Florida State is pretty familiar with. The last time FSU saw Riley Leonard, he was being helped off the field in Tallahassee, and he and his Duke team had a third-quarter lead against Florida State, and, of course, the Seminoles came back to win that one by 18 points. November 9th, the weather should be okay, but could be difficult. We shall see. FSU at Notre Dame should be a marquee event and a huge game for the Noles and the Irish as they both look to make the college football playoff. Then we've got the date against Clemson. It's in Tallahassee. Of course, FSU mounted its most significant win in years, going to Death Valley last year and turning what could have been a two-score deficit into a victory in the fourth quarter. And they win that game against Clemson, turn the tide in the ACC. Clemson coming in, of course, with revenge on its mind. I consider the rivalry game against Miami to be Florida State's third toughest. It is at Hard Rock on October 26th. I'll give Florida State a 65% chance of winning despite being on the road. They have won 3 consecutive years, and of course, Miami's trying to turn around a 7-5 team that lost a bowl game to go to 7-6 last year. And of course, the Canes have Cam Ward and a load of transfers trying to make their bid for the ACC championship. These two teams could play twice in one season for the first time since 2004 when they met in the Orange Bowl. Florida State makes its annual affair against Florida, this time in Tallahassee. And of course, the Gators are facing one of the more difficult schedules we've seen, not just in college football this year. It is by far the toughest schedule this year. It's one of the toughest in recent memory. Give Florida State a 75% chance of defeating the Gators on the final weekend of the season at home. They've got North Carolina, and the Heels probably down, lose Drake May, lose a number of key contributors on both sides of the football, and Vegas odds have less confidence in North Carolina than they have had since Mack Brown took over this program, retook it over in 2019. November 2nd is the date. It's in Tallahassee. Give FSU an 80% chance of defeating the Heels. Interesting date against Rhett Lashlee and SMU. Of course, the Mustangs, a newcomer to the ACC, coming off a conference championship in the American Conference in which, like Florida State, they were unscathed at 9-0. Final weekend of September at SMU. Give Florida State an 80% chance of winning that game. Likewise at Duke and Manny Diaz, Malik Murphy at quarterback. October 18th, Florida State taking on Duke. Give the Noles an 8 out of 10 chance of coming out with the win. Now we've got an uncommon date and an uncommon location, just a rare situation as Florida State spotlighted against Georgia Tech the opening weekend of the season, actually week 0, in Dublin, Ireland. So this is the earliest that Florida State has ever played a football game. First game in program history played overseas. Georgia Tech has had this assignment once before against Notre Dame. Give Florida State a 85% chance of defeating Georgia Tech coming off a 7-6 season with Haynes King at quarterback. I like this game matchup against Memphis in Tallahassee with an 85% chance of defeating a team that a lot of people are pegging to be the group of 5 rep in the college football playoff, and of course a place where Mike Norvell once took the reins from Justin Fuente and won big at Memphis. Then it's the newcomer to the ACC, along with SMU and Stanford, a team Florida State will not play. Cal. Fortunately for Florida State, it's at home. They don't have to make that trip to the West Coast. That's on September 21st against the Cal team that might be a little bit better than most people anticipate. Good defensive team that has most of its production returning on that side of the ball, but still give FSU a solid 85% chance of winning this game. But even more of a chance and a certainty of defeating Boston College. BC gave FSU fits in Chestnut Hill. This time they play in Tallahassee on September 2nd. Bill O'Brien, the new head coach with the Eagles, always prepares his teams well, but this is an uphill struggle for BC. Give FSU a 90% chance of victory there. The easiest game of the season outside the FCS matchup against College of Charleston. Basically a scrimmage, 99% chance of winning the weekend before the Florida game. These conferences are so out of hand that at 17 teams, you've got 16 possible opponents. You play 8 conference games. Therefore, you miss as many teams as you play. And for Florida State, that means no NC State, no Louisville. Those would really be the 2 teams, along with Virginia Tech, that you would consider to be slight threats to FSU, that they catch a bit of a break. Syracuse, Wake Forest, Pitt, and Virginia are the other teams that Florida State does not play, including ACC newcomer Stanford. So if Florida State holds serve based on our calculations, they will lose against Notre Dame and win all the other games to finish 11-1. That doesn't mean that those are our predictions. We will make those predictions on game week. This is an odds estimation at this point of the season. And again, Florida State is the favorite by ourselves, by Vegas, by most. It's pretty consensus across college football that Clemson and Miami are in the mix, but Florida State is certainly the clear-cut favorite. Your thoughts down below. Leave your comments about your projected record, your projected percentage odds of Florida State navigating 2024. Don't forget, it's Florida State Wednesday night, every Wednesday here at the Voice of College Football. Seminoles live at 6 p.m. Eastern Time with a Renegade Report, Spear Addicts, and Big Game James Coleman at Den Media Group. Right here at the Voice of College Football, FSU.